So right now, we're talking about getting ready to look at colleges, and we have 15 minutes, and this really could be like a 2-day kind of, seminar and everything. So I think probably, like I'll start with a few things. I've some people handouts and not others. Take the materials and look them over, and that's at least getting us started. But if we just want to do question and answer right now, that's fine also. I'm not even sure what all. I know we've got some 11th grade, 8th grade. What other grades? We've got 10th
grade.
10th grade.
11th.
And 11th. Okay.
Oh, I didn't hear that. So.
I have my back.
I got ADD too.
So a lot of information here, but kind of starting with that it's never too early to start looking, doing the research, searching for colleges, that there are over 4,000 colleges in the United States, which, would help us to believe that there is a place for everyone. Students with learning disabilities and attention deficit disorder and auditory processing problems are going to have maybe a bit more difficulty figuring out where that right fit is for them. So the process may be a little bit more involved for our kids than it is for, just the average student out there, and that means that they're going to need more help with it. To maybe give you a little bit background for Noble Academy, and as the counselor for the older grades, my philosophy is that we're here to assist, not to do the process for them, but to assist with it, which means that the families have to have a big part of also talking to people, researching, taking the students out to visit. Most of us wouldn't move to another state, another town, another house without having looked at. We wouldn't even buy a car, mostly, without having, driven it, gone and looked at it, done research on it. That if this is a place that they're going to live for 4 years or longer, that it needs to be a good fit for them in all ways, not just, and I would suggest not starting with the learning disabilities piece of it, the learning disabilities office, but does the college have what they want to major in? Is it close enough to home for them to be comfortable and you to be comfortable? Is it far enough away from home for you to be comfortable, them to be comfortable? Does it have other things that they want beyond just the major that they want to major in? And the learning disabilities piece, I think, is just a part of that. Are they going to be able to have services that they need to be successful at the college level? So having said that, as you look at colleges, they pretty much have to have some services for students with disabilities, but what that is entirely up to them. It can go from a disability office that covers learning disabilities, physical disabilities, vision, all those kinds of things. That's just very simple. The kids, come ask for help. Not a lot extra is done for them, all the way up to colleges that have full programs for students with learning disabilities that you may pay a lot extra for, and that the student is applying not only to the college, but they're applying to get into that learning program. And I also have, if you want to take with you anything to look at, but just for an example, this is Mars Hill College here in North Carolina, and they have a student support services program that they put out an actual little brochure. And this is a brochure from East Carolina University. They have a program that they only take 10 students into each fall. It's very competitive to get into. You have to have a learning disabilities diagnosis to even be considered for that program. Just having, and I hate to say just having, but just having an ADHD diagnosis, you don't qualify. You have to have an LD diagnosis for that program. It's free. It includes all kinds of extra tutoring, counseling, help with getting into your classes, all of those kinds of things. But they only take 10 students a year into that program. If that, out of those 10 students, if they don't all then transition into sophomore year, they don't fill their spot. So that spot is just lost if they don't move on to the sophomore year, the junior year, the senior year.
This is like that thing we did at the almost the end of, in the spring last year.
Similar to, mm-hmm.
That's what I've lost my train of thought. I think I'm hungry. I'll get back to you.
Okay. Write it down if you think of it. Okay. For example, Lewisburg College just came to visit us a week or so ago. And they are the last 2-year program here in North Carolina. But they have a focus of helping students go from a 2-year program into a 4-year program. And they also have what they call Learning Partners, which is a separate division that is help for students with learning disabilities and attention deficit disorder. You apply to Lewisburg College and get in, you apply to the Learning Partners program, and you pay an extra fee for the Learning Partners program. But they are helping the students identify right from the beginning that, you know, say, use a student that we had as an example, he wanted to go to UNC Wilmington. They helped him right from the first day look at what the requirements were for UNC Wilmington, and the whole 2 years he was at Lewisburg, he was working toward getting into UNC Wilmington. We had another student go through that program, and he then transitioned to Appalachian State and is there now. So they are helping with that, but you're also leaving a program like Lewisburg with an associate degree.
Okay. Because the LD diagnosis has to be current, right?
Yes.
Because like my son was diagnosed when he was 5. So
excellent
you have to
question.
have another one, right?
Excellent question. For 2 reasons. One, it has to be current. Most colleges want to see new testing done within 3 years of transitioning in. And that is one of the things that we'll help with. I keep track of all of the student psychoeducational dates. And in their senior year, I send you a letter saying it's time, they need new testing, you need to look into, and suggesting that you get in touch with all the colleges that you're thinking about and find out what did they want for that testing, what are they looking for, so that as you're working with that psychologist on the testing, you're getting exactly what the college wants from you. The other reason for doing it, kind of like in the senior year, getting that late, is that they want testing that was done on adult norms. If you have your child tested when they're younger, I think there's one of everything here. Okay. Thank you. If you had your child tested like in 7th grade, they are being tested on children's norms, and then after age 16, then they will test them using adult norms. There's a different IQ test that you use. It's the same company and everything, but one is all done on children's norms, the other one on adult. And the colleges want to see the adult norms. So that's the other reason you have to get it done. If we end up with a student in, you know, like 8th, 9th grade, that their testing's getting a little bit old, but we're still like okay here with what we're doing and everything, we'll tell the parents to wait till maybe the end of the junior year to do it, so that you're not paying for one. It's expensive. You're not paying for one in 7th and 8th grade, then, you know, another one in 10th, 11th grade, 11th and 12th grade. Good question. Other questions? Just throw them out.
Austin's more focused on one thing, and that's video games. But Ollie, there's not that many colleges out there. What shouldn't we be looking at other colleges, even though that's the only thing he's focused in on?
I think so.
What do you do?
I think you have to get him to go visit, and Mr. Barrett's going to help with that.
Okay.
We're actually planning some college visits during Skills Week in March.
I want to say it's March.
I think it's March.
So I want to go to like NC State, because a lot of people do. And him coming up said he would be a good engineer, but he doesn't have that in his mind.
Actually, just yesterday, Miss Payne and I were doing sort of a tentative plan for what colleges the students were interested in, and then how to logistically get anywhere. And NC State's on our list.
Okay.
And they're looking at everything from about Atlanta up to the Washington D.C. area and possibly out to Tennessee, but staying
we chose
in
Hawaii,
this
but you guys
section of
wouldn't
the.
do
Well, I would go.
I recommend it.
We would go.
Okay.
So we're doing that. We try to get the kids on campus. Mr. Barrett and I took a group last spring and hit quite a few schools here around North Carolina, just to let them see that there are different options, because I think our kids do get very much tunnel vision. They also get a little hung up sometimes on main schools. I have to go to Davidson, I have to go to Duke, I have to go to Chapel Hill, I have to go to Appalachian. And they're not always getting that there's a whole bunch of schools out there, and some small school that they've never even heard of could be the perfect fit for
And that's what
them.
worries me, because Austin does not do well in big groups.
Mhm.
So I need a little group, but that will help him do what he wants to do, and that's where it's gonna be hard to find.
I think getting them on the campus to visit with the parents, because it's totally different going to visit with you versus going to visit with us and a whole group of kids. You look at different things. Parents are gonna hear totally different information than what the student, they're gonna hear how good the food is in the cafeteria, and,
Pretty girls on campus.
football on Friday night, and all that kind of stuff, where you're gonna be tuned into a lot of different information, kind of keeping a list going so that you can sit down and compare later pros and cons of the different schools to make a good decision. Even having them go back for a second visit to a school that they're really interested in, spending the night in the dorm, sitting in on a couple of classes to see what it's like. And there's gonna be a big difference in sitting in on a big class at NC State versus looking at just like one of the art institutes for video gaming, or looking at a small school like Mars Hill or Lewisburg or Brevard, places like that. A lot of our kids do seem to start out thinking they have to go to a big school. I've been at Noble for a few years, small classes, I'm ready for a big school. What we find from most of them is that when it comes down to making the decision, most of them are picking a smaller school where they can have a personal relationship with their professors, people know who they are, they can get those services that they need. So I think, and most of the colleges are going to be bigger than we are, but they can find something kind of in between usually that meets their needs. Another program to throw out there that is a good one to think about for our kids, and from what we understand, this is going to be across the state. It's in the works now. But UNCG has a program called the Ashby College. It's a college, smaller college within the bigger university, where the students live in a dorm, that they get to know all the people in that dorm. They have maybe a little bit more supervision there. Some of the professors come in and teach classes there in the dorm, instead of the student going out into the bigger campus. So like psychology, instead of being 200 people in a lecture hall, might be 10 people from your dorm sitting there having a psychology class.
And that's more expensive though, right?
Yeah.
It's not more
I
expensive?
don't think so.
But you have only so many slots?
There's only so many slots where you have to apply for that. And it's, from what we understand, that's to be added at all of the state universities.
That's good.
And is coming. UNC Charlotte maybe has their program already. Somebody had mentioned to us recently called the BEST program, I think. So it'll be under different names, but something to also, especially if you have some younger kids, that it's going to be a couple of years yet to watch for and be thinking about. And we've had several kids go through the program at UNCG in that smaller college, or at least start with that and then move out into the big university, and just speak very highly of it.
Do you guys help us with that, as far as what school you think Austin would be good at? Or do we
We can make recommendations.
I mean, that's what we need, 'cause I never heard of Lewisburg. Is that in Lewisburg?
Yeah, right outside of Wake
Winston?
Forest,
Yeah.
northeast of Raleigh.
That's the private school, that's not.
It is private.
So So is that Ashby College at UNCG, like the other thing you said, that if somebody drops out, does it return the next?
They'll replace.
Oh, they replace?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They will go ahead and get somebody else in that dorm, in that room. ECU, the STEP program, that's the only one I know of that's quite like that. And that is underwritten by a grant, which I think is why they don't replace, the student has something to do with that.